pretty much the warehouse here, getting back to the community side. Now, I don't know if it's not being smart, if we want to go, but okay, brief stop, Kodak moment, and then our final destination.
I'm glad we're here in daylight.
So we only want to say happy birthday to Yoshinaka.
Thank
Happy birthday.
you.
And we all want to wish her
Many more.
many more,
Many more.
many more, as much as
At
possible.
least one more year.
Okay.
And you don't look any older.
We could sing to her, and at the end we say, "And how old are you?"
Oh, yes. No, that's not, you don't ask women how old they are.
No, I never do. I never do. I only try to make the estimation,
No, that's
but I never tell them.
Oh.
Okay? Because you know what's happening. If I go too much over, then I get myself in trouble. You know?
If you're way too much under them.
Yeah.
They know that, yeah, they know that.
You know, the Lake Atitlan is the result of volcanic eruptions that took place over 18,000 years ago. You know, so this is a lake that has something like 250 meters deep, considered to be the second deepest lake of this hemisphere. You know, after Lake Tahoe. And the lake has something like 126 square kilometers. Makes this Guatemala third largest lake. And it have like almost 12 villages around, which the majority of them have yet the Mayan name and apart the name that was given after the conquest, you know, like after the 12 apostles. Santiago Atitlan, San Pedro La Laguna, San Jorge, San Antonio, Santa Catarina, San Andres, you know, that's the way it goes. Santa Clara La Laguna, you know, that's the difference. But the one we're gonna visit today, it's gonna be Santiago Atitlan, right? And then here we have the volcano of San Pedro, and then over here you'll notice like a double cone where we have what is known today as the South Pacific coast of Guatemala. That is what is considered to be the most fertilized fields of the country. So when the wind from the coast, which is hot, and the wind from this area, they both make a wind comes into this lake, which is called or is known as Chocomil. Chocomil, or it can be written like Jocomil. You know, Joco. It means like to pick up, and il, to pick up the sins. Recoger los pecados. Chocomil or Jocomil. So even some of the locals, they don't want to be on the lake sometimes when the Chocomil, when the wind comes from the coast. Okay, it can get very choppy. I told you we'll do a lot of things that American regular don't do. So why don't we stay on the lake and see what happens with the Chocomil? No. That's the reason why I'm coming at this time, okay? So we're gonna go, our drive gonna take like 35-40 minutes to approach Santiago Atitlan, and then once we get there, we use the restrooms, and then we begin our activities in that village, okay? So enjoy.
the white stuff. That's just a pork. Maybe there's two of them. You want to turn around and smile?
I'm sorry.
He make a carving. He make your name. He can put your name on this kind of. See?
Gracias. Gracias.
You go with Robin. You go with Bob. Yoshinaka, you go with Siyoko, and Eleanor go with Bruce, and Joseph go with me, and Janine go with.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
¿Cómo está el negocio?
I took this in. What is that? That's a hotel or somebody?
Oh, that's private.
Oh, you spend a lot of money.
This is property belongs to more wealthy mafia families. But they would bring them. A lot of their friends and make big parties on for spending weeks, you know.
We ran out of gas.
That looks about the same size.
You're also on a lake or on a lake?
Someday we'll get it back to
Yeah, he's been working on it.
working along, work in progress. But I gotta find, we gotta find her.
Ah, that's nice. Nice.
But I was telling you, Robin has a canoe.
She have a canoe. No one can touch the canoe. Water stands off the pool. They have a pool there. drive us all the way to the end, and then we walk down. Okay? Yeah, because then it's gonna be better.
Where is the museum?
The museum we're gonna see after it's done.
I don't know how to take them
After
out.
lunch, you know, it doesn't really go out of dimension. Okay, so we have, for example, from here to the further building, it's 2 kilometers. You know, walking distance, 2 kilometers. So pretty much we have 2 kilometers, 2 kilometers. You know, which this basic, what we got in here, is what is pretty much representing the epicenter of Tikal. Okay? The archaeologists, which they begin to do archaeological investigation from 1956 until 1969, they were able to map an area of 16 square kilometers. But after making further investigation, they get to the conclusion that the city of Tikal, when it was at its maximum developing point, at its maximum peak, the city extended at least over 120 to 180 kilometers. So that gives you an idea of the magnitude of the city. That's one of the main reasons why Tikal is considered today the ancient capital of the Mayan culture. Okay? This is when the Mayan culture gets to its maximum developing peak. Okay? We have orientation. North, south, east, west. Okay? Then, we'll see. My plan is that if Samuel can drive us up all the way to temple number 4, and then from there we're going to begin walking down.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
Going over to this section, to the left, further down, that is what is actually being called today the Lost World, Mundo Perdido, one of the older sections of the city, and that's where they has found that the architecture in there is pretty much similar to what we can find back in Teotihuacan, north of Mexico. Okay, so that's where we're going to have where archaeologists today, they have been able to establish that this section was pretty much what we call today an E group. An E group would be an astronomical observatory. So what's happened? We have found an evidence that the majority of the temples that we can see out here today is temples that have been aligned one with another for astronomical reasons. Equinoxes, solstice has been very important. Remember the first city we saw on this trip? The second city we saw on this trip? What you remember of that city? Remember we saw all the alignments that we had in the plaza?
Yes.
Okay? So the Mayans, they did a lot of observation. We know that they did that much observation, which they tried to track Venus, of how long it took to go around his own orbit. And they missed it just to 14 seconds during a year. They were that much precise, right? Then we'll come down and have a look at temple number 3. So you notice 1, 2, 3, 4. Temple number 3, temple number 5, and then this section here is what we actually call today the Great Grand Plaza of Tikal. Everybody come with me. You got to make it to the plaza. After the plaza, if you don't want to see more of Tikal, I don't care. But if you can't make it up there, I'll drag you up there. I'll drag you up there. Then we have this great plaza. We have temple number 2, temple number 1, the North Acropolis, the Central Acropolis. And then this section down here would be a market plaza. So this is where people will be coming from the surrounding area of Tikal and on a specific day. And this is where they will have that plaza day, that market day. Eh? And then you notice that there is 2 buildings facing one another.
Yeah.
What this remind to you?
A ball court?
No, the one in Mexico.
The ball court, where that famous ball game was played. You know, which I should admit, so far one of the ball courts which I really like more because we find much more detail, is the ball court that we saw back in Copan in Honduras. One of the largest of the ball court that had been discovered was found back in Teotihuacan, in Chichen Itza, in Mexico.
Yes.
And one of the smallest of the ball court has been discovered here in Belize, and one of the oldest ball court has been found on the South Pacific coast of Guatemala. There is a city there with a very strong Olmec influence that is called today Takalik-Abac. Okay? Then you notice, this would be what we actually call today a sac bay. A sac bay, white paved roads that will be connecting one section of the city with another section of the city, but in many other occasions they will be connecting cities with cities. Then, the sinkholes that we can see, it's the result from where the Mayans, they had to quarry out their construction material, and that's where later they put the plaster or stucco, so to prevent the water filter. So there was once something like 13 artificial lakes in Tikal. 13 Mayan water reservoirs. That's the way how it would function. Okay? And then you notice that we have a series of these classes. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To be exact, they have found an evidence that once there were something like 9 different complexes. This is what we actually call today twin pyramid complexes. You know, so this was specific to commemorate or to celebrate what would be a Mayan ruling cycle. So there was a time which every 20 years they built a new complex. Every 20 years it would be a new ruler. Or every 20 years the same ruler, he began a new 20-year ruling cycle. That's the way. 20 would be very, very important. And why? Because the Mayans, they wanted to represent themselves. 5, 5, 5, 5. 9 is very important. You know, east, west is very important. Sunrise, sunset, positive, negative, yin, yang, life, death. That's the way. The Mayan believe in 13 heavens, 9 hells. That's the way. Okay, so we're going to see this very, very, very often. Now, picture this. Picture this. How this has to look at the Mayans' time. This was all being stucco white. The temples were all being painted red, and the upper section of them had illustrative colors like yellow, green, cream, blue. We know that in between one temple and another, there weren't that much vegetation as it is today. Why? Because they had to keep in constantly observation to see the sunrise, to see the sunset, Venus, morning star, evening star. All of this was the different details which they take in consideration for the agriculture side. You know?
Did they have any enemies that they were worried about at this time?
We're gonna talk about some of those details like Caracol, uprise against Tikal, defeat Tikal. There was a lot of warfare. Okay.
Amongst themselves.
Amongst themselves, there was a lot of warfare. Why? Because they want to have control over a specific trading routes. That would be very important. Okay.
One thing is,
function.
Were all these used as temples, religious things?
Pardon?
Were all these used as religious?
No, well, some of them was to have different type of ceremony, observation, and then another of them would be residential building.
These things?
This was pretty much to celebrate the ceremonies, to commemorate the ending of a ruling cycle, specifically. Okay.
can I ask you, could you repeat again when it started to be built and when it was finished? What year?
Okay, Tikal has found evidence that the earlier building of Tikal is go all the way back to the year 800 BC. And the loss of the city of Tikal is go back to 900 AD. So from 8 to 9, 1700 years, Tikal did function as a city.
Which was the first part that was unearthed?